5 o'clock. Time to start. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. and we're going to start with a moment of silence followed by the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Claire, we're now open for public comment. You want to read your disclosure?
Public comment periods will be held at the beginning of the scheduled meeting and limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each person desiring to speak shall clearly state their name and will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make his or her remarks. A speaker may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. To avoid repetition, groups of individuals who expect to have the same or similar comments are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. The board should refrain from engaging in dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's position. The board shall not entertain questions from the audience, and discussions between speakers and members of the audience shall be prohibited. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. Speaker comments should be limited to subjects that are within the board's jurisdiction. Action on items brought up during the public comment period will be at the discretion of the board.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Robert Sneed, last time you were discussing your traffic issue, did a little research on the laws. You might want to check with your HR department. Your immediate supervisor and for civic duties can allow you 59 minutes of the last hour of the day for civic duties. So that would be something to check into to help yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Madam Chairman?
Got the mic just muted in it.
Rebecca, would you get one of those? Sure. She's out real quick. Louis?
Thank you.
Bill?
Dana, did you have an extra book?
Extra what?
Extra for Rebecca.
I thought I gave you everybody one.
It's like
Yeah,
passing
no.
out a test.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Ah.
That Roger or William wanted to
It'll
get
just
theirs
be
up.
easier to follow. So, I gave somebody mine, okay. Before you get to the business of today, I would like you to, someone on the board, to move motion number 1, another person to second it, so that you can discuss it and vote on it. And hopefully later you'll have a chance to get to motion number 2. Motion number 1 being, I move that to the extent possible, the appointment of the chief judges of elections be divided equally between the 2 major parties, and the remaining chief judge be awarded to the party with the most registered voters within Harnett County. The rationale for this being, this motion embraces the spirit of the law and exhibits a fairness in the election process. Motion number 2 is something that I hope you will consider, and it would be, I move that the total daily hours for one-stop voting in the 2023 municipal elections be set at 4. And my reasoning follows. So please consider the number of votes cast in the last 3 municipal elections are there on the chart. And you see that 8.85% voted in the last municipal election. A little higher in 2019 and lower in 2017. So what I did is I projected and made a hypothetical statistics. Now I went on your website and I thought we were supposed to have 17 days of early voting, but it doesn't come out that way according to what's on your website. It has the Monday through Friday hours and one Saturday hour. And so this is how I figured it. I'm projecting. So we're not even going to go with the 549 that voted last time. We're going to assume that we're going to have many more voters than that. So let's go down to, let's say we have 1,000 voters vote in this municipal election. Based on the 28 days, and the asterisk tells you how I figured the 28 days. It would come down to 35, almost 36 votes a day. That's a little over 3 people voting every hour. If we double who voted in 2021, we'll find that we'll get 43 votes per day, or 4 votes per hour. And let's go pie in the sky and say for some unforeseen reason we got 2,000 people to vote in the municipals. That would be a total of 71 people, or almost 7 people an hour. Now, I calculated the wages very conservatively because I don't know what you're paying the election officials. But you can see how I figured that. So let me just do the rationale and stop.
That's 3 minutes? Okay, we're done. We can read it.
All right.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. All these other people want to speak. Anyone want to do your time? Working time?
Rebecca Brock, 5220 Christian Light Road. Thank you for the analysis. And while I do feel like it's great as a chance to save money at any time that we can get, one of the things that people have is consistency of regular practices in their lives. And we have established, I shouldn't say we, but the General Assembly has established 17 days of early voting. This one is 11 days of early voting, and the hours are the standard working hours, as well as that one Saturday, the last Saturday that's been approved. So I vote that we continue with the standard that you all have agreed to do and have the one polling location here at the Commons open, and then the standard 6:30 to 7:30 hours at the, I believe that's going to be 5, is it 5, maybe 6 polls for the 5 counties during the October 10th and November 7th election days. But thank you for this, because it does put our numbers right in front of us, and that's a good thing. Thank you.
Since Marge ran out of time, I will finish reading it for her so that we can all think about that. This is Dana Vasquez from Anderson
It
Creek.
says that we encourage them to.
So her rationale, this is not an attempt to suppress voters, but rather a reflection of common sense and fiscal responsibility to the citizens of Harnett County. Currently, the Harnett County Board of Elections website states the Monday through Friday hours as 8 to 5. These are business hours that don't accommodate voters who need to vote after work. 4 hours per day seems sufficient to handle the number of potential voters based on past experience. Additionally, the Saturday hours might be 10 to 2. Also, I'm certain that both parties would appreciate not having to find 74 minimum, 148 maximum poll observers each to cover the almost 300 hours of voting, which is incredibly hard to do.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so the comments now.
Can I address this real fast?
Sure.
So I just simply want to address the one-stop, the board has already approved the one-stop plan, and we are doing the minimum that is legally required. So the 4 hours per day is not something that is a possibility. We have to be open at a minimum during business hours, which is 8 to 5. So the plan that you guys have already approved, and that's on our website, is the minimum amount of time that we can be open for municipalities.
Okay, you want to move on to the meeting minutes?
Yeah. All right, so before you, you have a copy of the minutes from August 1st. These are the same minutes that I have emailed out to everybody to review. If you did not get a chance to review them, now you may do so. If there are no questions or corrections, then a motion to approve would be in order.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So this is the one to be signed.
Ready to open for business?
Alright, so the first item we have for business is to discuss the public comment discussion. So the reason I brought this up is because the previous appointed board had a motion and approved the process of having public comment at all of our regular meetings, but at non-regular meetings, not having public comment. So that would be like our absentee meetings, simply because of the fact that we have a lot of absentees. Municipals may not be as busy, but once we get into the primary, we will have a lot of business to handle at those meetings. So having an additional 30 minutes for public comment can sometimes drag that down. Again, this is a board decision, but since, Bill, you're new to the board, I figured we needed to address the issue and then have a new vote on that to make sure that's still the pleasure of the board.
Well, let me comment. I'm not having experienced it. I don't know the time constraints that would be involved, but certainly the public comment is an integral part of the meeting. And I wouldn't want to prevent that because of time constraints. We may have to work a couple extra hours, I don't know, because I don't have that experience, but I wouldn't cut into the public comment time. That's my feeling.
Any other discussion?
Well, on the previous board, I was the one who proposed that we have public comment, and it was about 15 minutes, and I said 30 minutes. Also, I've seen public comment, I want everybody speaking out, but when we're doing absentee ballots, that should be our focus. And we will have public comment. That's not a motion, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Is it the procedure that when we had absentee ballots, we wouldn't hear from the public? Is that the way it has been?
So they would come to so at the regular meeting for that month, we would have public comment. So every month, we would have a public comment section. We just wouldn't have one at our absentees is every week, so we wouldn't have one every single week.
Yeah, that's the thing, I'm just gonna look at the schedule. It's just like there are a lot of those meetings. Once you start having them, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of absentees once we start, because we have to do it the 5th Tuesday prior to the beginning of election.
So it wouldn't be excluding the public comment?
No, at the first of every month at the regular meeting will always be a public comment. It's just during those special meetings with your absentees. that we
Would there be
wouldn't
any
have
exception if something critical had to be heard?
So if there was something critical or somebody filed a complaint or a protest, those would be brought to the board because typically they would file those through me so that I can give it to you guys in advance so that you can be prepared for it at the meeting. That's why during the public comment, there's not a lot of back and forth to the public comments because you guys haven't had a chance to review the statutes, to review the information. So anything that is filed during that time period while absentees are going on, if there's something the board needs to address, you can address other business at that meeting. We're just simply trying to streamline it for absentees. I say we, the previous board, that was the thought process of that.
Like in October, we have 7 meetings. So if that gives you any clue.
It does.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's completely up to the board.
Well, as long as we have the option to permit it for certain circumstances, depending, and we're not eliminating the normal, regular meeting public comment, I think that makes sense.
Well, we're the board, if we wanted to, if there was something special and we all agreed, it wouldn't have to be unanimous, but hey, we need to deal with this. I mean, we can do
Right.
meetings like that, usually at the call of the chair or the director, so.
Well, then there's no motion on this, it's just a discussion right now?
It's a discussion unless somebody wants to make a motion.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I can make a motion that we just continue to have the public comment at the regular meetings, not at the absentee meetings unless there's some urgent matter that needs to be discussed.
I'll second that.
I would just see if you'd accept an amendment to that, to be, if something were to occur during that period of time, and we can revisit it to maybe modify it.
That's good.
Because I just don't know.
Well, we
what's
can always
going
do
to happen.
that, yeah.
It would be up to a majority vote of the board to modify it.
Right.
But if it's something special, I think we all share a common interest here.
I agree.
So if you've added that part, I will second the motion with the changes.
Okay. I have that. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So then the future agendas will reflect that. All right.
I would like to make a motion, if this is the appropriate time, and that's to, the first motion that was presented in public comment, moving that the extent possible, the appointment of chief judges of election be divided equally. That was my understanding before I even came here, that that's what was done. I counted an 8-5 division right now, and I thought, well, why is that? It should be,
Can I
this motion
interrupt?
says.
Can we finish the business, that's new stuff that you're adding, and then we can address that?
Yeah.
Fine, I said if I qualified it, if this is the time.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay,
saying it's
that's
not,
fine.
we're gonna come back to you
Yep.
when we finish.
I won't let you get away with it.
All right, so we're done with the public comment discussion. So now we're talking about the judge appointments. So everybody, I have emailed everybody the list that were submitted by the Democrat and the Republican Party for judge appointments. And then going through with the staff, that list, have created a recommendation which you all have in front of you that says 23, 2024 judges. Just a little history. So traditionally in the past, the chief judge has been the party of the governor. So if the governor is a Democrat, the chief judge is a Democrat. If the governor is Republican, the chief judge is Republican. That is not necessarily the law, that was just something that was traditionally done across the state to make appointments easier, so you had kind of a process to go by. With that said, this board has typically gone along with that tradition. However, there have been many times in the past where we have had an insufficient list or somebody was not able to work and the board has filled those vacancies with Republicans. The list before you, if you haven't already looked at it, if you would notice there are 6 positions where the chief judge is actually a Republican this time. After talking,
5, isn't it?
5.
5.
6, yeah, 5. I'm sorry,
Okay.
can't count. So after talking, looking at the list, talking with Rebecca, I know they were short some Democrats. So this list does have a mix of them. It's not the even one I think that everybody was looking for, but it does have a mix. 90% of these workers have worked before, and we're confident in them. There's a few that are new, so we tried to reach out and call every one of them to verify that they did want these roles. There's a few people that, after we called them, said they did not want to be in a chief judge or judge role, so we had to edit that list accordingly. And in fact, we were still calling people up to before this meeting. So it has definitely been a process trying to reach out to these election workers. So what I have before you is basically our recommendations. And just a disclaimer, these poll workers are appointed to a 2-year term, but 99.9% of the time after this meeting, somebody's going to change their mind and not want to work. And then it's up to the board to replace them. So what we typically do at that point is we go back to the list that the parties appointed, see who they had on there, if they're willing to take that role. If not, then we would go to somebody who we know has worked in that precinct before who can handle that role. So just because we're approving this today doesn't mean by the time the election comes around it's not going to change, because somebody may withdraw from wanting to hold those positions. So even though we're appointing them to a 2-year term, it's still a very fluid list. Are there any questions?
I guess this would be something for the party chairs to answer. Are we having problems or any issues finding and recruiting people that would want to go into that role? Can I ask that to the party chairs?
I mean, it's up to Allison if she wants to allow that, but I can tell you that
Only
yes.
one party chair, so it'd be one-sided.
Yeah, but I can
I'm a
pretty
vice.
much answer that question, yes.
Yeah, we've got, and the reason, because I have, it just brought to me, I won't take it, I won't take it, I won't take it.
Oh, good.
You said bring it to you, there it is.
Yeah, let me turn it off. I'm sorry, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, I know, it was brought to me that there had been some issues finding people who want to be in the chief judge's role. And if that happened, let's say, for example, if out of the 5 Republicans, if one decided, not 2 decided they would not, and no one wanted to step up into that role as a Republican, the opposite party feel that role.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Do you want an answer?
I've been
Yes.
trying to read through the
No,
statute. You can,
only she can speak, Oceana, Dana.
Huh?
That's who you're referring to, and Rebecca.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Could you repeat the question, please?
If for some reason either party could not find enough people to fill the roles of chief judge, and you had people here, they would not move up for whatever reason, would that be open for the other party to fill that
But that's
spot?
what you do, right?
Mhm.
Is
Yes.
that how
That's
it's
what she
done?
does. That's what she does.
Yeah.
In my conversations with the list that I submitted to Claire, which I called all of them, I didn't put that off to the precinct, I have to say that everyone I spoke to gave a glowing report on creating a nonpartisan, fair, and accurate voting environment at the polling places. So that if we couldn't find a Democratic precinct judge, and that was a precinct that had one, but there was a Republican experienced precinct judge, I feel that that's an adequate solution to the problem because of the history in Harnett County that both parties has produced as best a voting experience, nonpartisan, as that they possibly can. So we did find that we don't have a bevy of chief judges. And I was asking for people who either had poll working experience or assistant judge experience. Would they stay on and be committed for the next 2, 4, and 6 years to learn the ropes, to be trained in whatever statute it is of the day, to be a fair and accurate judge? And that's why they're on this list, because that was their commitment, not just this year, but for years to come. But like Claire has said, some people's family causes them to, families, life, they can't fulfill the commitment. Thank you.
Dana?
make a few different comments regarding this selection process. One thing I would mention regarding the chief judges that has been a concern mentioned to me is having to drive dark, bad roads late at night to get things back to the Board of Elections. So people don't mind working as a chief judge, they don't like that part of it. I'm a little concerned about talking about training and whatnot, that if someone, from what I understand, there's nothing in there about experience for people to be selected for these jobs. So if the training is insufficient for them to do the job, that might be something to look at, because if they're meeting the requirements for selection, then they should be trained to be able to do the job, whether they have experience or not. My list is full. I mean, I had at least one person, I think, for chief judge in every precinct, and 2 people for judges in every precinct. So it was quite a bit of work, but I was able to get people for all of the positions. So was there a different question that I needed to
thank you.
address? Okay. And I guess just one other question I would have is if all the judges were picked from the given list, because from what I understand, that they are supposed to be picked from the list.
I will say that the chairs this year have done a very good job of selecting, because I've been here since Columbus, but many of the party chairs used to say, just pick them and I'll go along with it. I mean, that historically is what has happened. And y'all have done a better job than it's been done before.
I have a couple comments.
Okay,
Yeah.
so on this
Yeah,
or the?
on this.
Okay.
It was mentioned that traditionally, this practice was followed, having the party of the governor have all the chief judges. Well, it's not in the law, so it's not something that we necessarily have to follow. I would think to have a free and fair and nonpartisan activity, that it should be equal. And that's why I thought it was done that way. I thought it was, there's 13 precincts. I thought that 6 of them were one, 6 from the other, and I don't know about the toss-up. But apparently, even with what's recommended here, it's 5 Republicans and 8 Democrats, even though we have 21 listed from the Republican side as chief judges. So then I thought, well, maybe it's because of, quote, experience. And that's the second issue. And to me, how can someone get experience if they're not put in the position? They can't, it's not by osmosis. And of course, I understand that there's extensive training by the State Board of Elections for both the chief judges and the workers. Maybe there's some inadequacies in the teaching. Maybe that should be addressed. So the people that have gone through the training should have the ability to fill the position. Those are some random comments.
Well, I would like to add that of all the Democrats, that chief judges that are on the list, they have been chief judges in the past. So they're all returning chief judges, so they do have the experience. As far as the training, yes, I think they all do receive adequate training. But there is a lot to do on election day. There's a lot of forms, there's a lot of checklists. And it can be overwhelming to somebody who's never even been an election worker. So when we say experience, it's nice to have somebody who's at least worked as an assistant before. That's what we're talking about, experience. I mean, even one election, and I don't know if Betsy wants to chime in or not, but Betsy was a poll worker.
And I was a judge and then a chief judge
Yeah,
also.
so it's a lot.
The way that it is that you have one Democrat and one Republican, and then the chief judge from whatever party, but you always have, I mean, it's a requirement by law to have a bipartisan. You can't have 3 Republicans in a precinct or 3 Democrats. So you're gonna have a bipartisan group there. And when you're the chief judge, you have to like be in charge of everything, and I'm just concerned that if like somebody hasn't even been there before, it's, you know, you've gotta put this form out, and then you've gotta do this form, and then you've gotta like do this checklist, and then it's just, it's a lot. And then by the end of the day, you're so tired that you can like hardly think,
And
and you
meanwhile,
like have
people
never
are
done
coming
this
in to
before.
vote.
And I would like to
It's
just
just
add
a lot.
that there are several people on this list that were pulled from the appointment list who have not worked before. So for example, East Davis Borough, and I'm gonna pick on the Republican list. So Beverly McLean was put on for East Davis Borough. When we reached out to her, her comment was, "I'm an 80-year-old lady and I just do not want to do this." And I do not feel any kind of way. I mean, I don't blame her at all because they do have to drive back and forth to pick up supplies and drop off supplies. We try to take the bulk of it, but they have to come for their ballots, their laptops. Those are secure things that have to be returned every night. Shirley Massey's the other one that was listed, and she's the one that made the list. She sounded very wary about it, but she said yes, that she would do it. So there's several people on here that are new that haven't worked before because we do have to pull from this list. But we tried to balance it with people who have worked. I think Coates is another one where the chief judge is experienced, but the 2 judges are not. So she's not only going to be running that place, but also helping to keep up with her judges. And I mean, we do all the training we possibly can do, but there's just a lot of hands-on learning when you're out at the site. And having at least one election worked helps build that foundation of knowledge.
And even if you've done a lot of training, I mean, I don't know if you've tried to learn a new job recently, but even going through that training, when you're actually there doing it and there's nobody telling you, it's really hard. It's a lot if you haven't ever done it before. So that's why I think having somebody with experience is very helpful because it's just a lot.
Well, I have to say that last year I had the opportunity to go through the training for both the workers and the judges. And my opinion is it's inadequate training. It should be at a higher level, and there should be some after the training, some sort of qualifying examination so that they know what they were taught. And that's just an observation.
You attended training here?
No.
Did you work the election?
Did you attend my training?
No, I did it online, and I looked at the training that was provided by the state.
Well, the state training is kind of supplemental. Our training is what, we give you the beef of everything.
Yeah.
So through this election cycle, feel free to come to one of my trainings and see it from that aspect, because we go a lot more detailed. I mean, they have to pull out the laptops, they have to log into the laptops, they have to plug in the printer. Like, we go through everything, all the way up to checking in, help station, provisional ballots, everything.
And that would be done for the people that are new in the
Correct.
chief judge position?
And then we also do separate training for assistants and judges. So everybody goes to the assistant training, everybody. And then the judges come back for an additional judge training.
Okay.
So come to one of our trainings and you'll find it's a lot more, there's a lot more hands-on.
Sounds like we're trying.
Mhm.
And it's how many days? It's generally spread across.
Yeah, I think the last election we had 13 trainings. But they're only required to attend, the assistants are only required to attend 1, the judges are required to do 2.
Okay, now we can move on to your issue that you were discussing earlier.
Which one?
I don't know. You pick.
No, are we supposed to, I thought we had to finish with the judges first.
Oh, we gotta vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need if you guys are good with the list, then a motion to approve. If there's any edits, then we would need to establish that tonight prior to the close of business, because the appointments are due today.
Didn't Mr. McNutt want a motion that number 1, was that?
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I thought.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to read the motion again. I move that to the extent possible, the appointment of chief judges of elections be divided equally between the two major parties, and the remaining chief judge be awarded to the party with the most registered voters within Harnett County. And of course, that then would be, that's the motion, and that would be in conflict with the traditional no statute position that's been followed. So, if there's a second on that, we can discuss it.
So absence of a second means the motion has failed.
Yes.
Is there any other questions, or is there another motion?
I think we can.
Is there a motion to approve the list as provided by staff?
Second.
I can't.
No, she can't. She can't make the motion.
Who made the motion?
She said, is there?
Is there?
Oh.
You need to make the motion.
Okay, I thought I heard you say something. Okay, well then I'll make that motion that we approve the list of judges,
All right.
for this cycle as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second, I guess.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
So that is all that we had as far as the agenda business, I think. Gail has something else?
Yeah, what I wanted to bring up requires a closed session.
All right, so
I gotta make a motion.
is that a motion to go in closed session?
Yes.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in closed session at 5:37.
There a copy of the approved list that will be.
Yeah, actually, I did make
All right,
We're back in open session.
Okay. Mr. Bell?
Is there any other business to
What's that?
discuss?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
Oh.
go ahead.
I move that the full Board of Elections assist election director in the interviewing hiring process for the assistant election director.
I'll second that. I'd like to add to that, for the interest of transparency in our hiring of our executive staff.
A motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, it's the first time we had that.
What was your vote?
That's a true
I
split.
didn't.
That's
All
a-
opposed, was
All
it?
Opposed
opposed?
was me,
Aye.
Mr. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion
Well,
fails
well, there you have it.
3-2.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
I second
So,
that one.
I agree.
Alright, our next meeting is September 5th at 5 o'clock. On your calendar, it is listed as an absentee/regular meeting.
Yes.
But absentee ballots for the October election do not get mailed until September 8th, so it's just gonna be a regular meeting.
Okay.
So no absentee.
No absentees.
Absentee.
Mhm.
How are we coming with the vote ID thing? Are we doing good with that? Have we started taking